Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Are we ready? Okay, it's good to be back. So at 6 o'clock, we can call to order the June 7th, 2022 meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services. Pursuant to the governor's executive order N-2920, members of the West Sacramento Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference. To reduce the spread of COVID-19, members of the public are asked to watch the meeting on telecast, wave channel, cable channel 20, and to have submitted comments in writing by 5 p.m. on December 7th. By an earlier time than this. So clerk, could you please call attendance?
Commissioner Ahmad,
Present.
Commissioner Altamirano,
Present.
Commissioner Castro,
Present.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Present.
Vice Chair Reed,
Present.
Commissioner Schatzel,
Present.
Chair Jantz.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me go to the agenda, switch between the screens. Okay. We're going to start with the selection of the commission chair and vice chair, which is item 1A on the agenda, and then to presentations by the public. We want to begin on item 1A.
Yes, and Chair Jantz, this is a carryover from the last meeting. As you were not able to attend the last meeting, the commission elected to carry this over until you could be present to be part of the larger discussion.
Thank you for that. And I'm a little bit behind tonight, and I apologize for that. But as I missed the last meeting was due to Little League Baseball, which I am thoroughly entrenched in tonight. We had our All-Star registration event for the All-Star players who made the team. And so they were at Memorial Park tonight registering. So I literally jammed from Memorial Park back to my office to attend the meeting. So I appreciate you. I was not going to miss it again. So I appreciate everybody holding this vote over until this meeting. So thank you for that. So I've only been a part of one of these nominations or maybe a couple of them. But I believe in the past, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but basically there's nominations. And so if you accept the nomination, then the commission essentially holds a vote. Is that how we did it, Tracy? Okay.
Nomination for a chair. You can do nomination for a chair and vice chair, or chair first and then vice chair. Or you could do vice chair and chair, however you want to order it.
Well, let's start with the chair. And I was under the impression it was a 2-year term. So I am happy to continue for another year if that's what the commission would agrees to. So I'm open to anything, but that was my understanding when we selected these. Commissioner Reed and I were selected as chair and vice chair. So I'll just give the commission the floor to go ahead and speak.
I nominate David Jantz to continue to be our chair.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations or interested? Okay. Well, I would happily accept. Thank you. And since there was a motion and a second, anybody opposed? All right, so then we'll take roll.
Commissioner Ahmad,
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano,
Aye.
Commissioner Castro,
Aye.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel,
Aye.
Chair Jans.
Do I get to vote?
Yes,
I accept.
thank you.
And Vice Chair Reed, I don't know if we had the opportunity to talk about your position on continuing as Vice Chair.
Well, actually, I was going to nominate Sasha Horwitz to be our new vice chair.
Thank you. I certainly wasn't expecting that, so I appreciate that, Commissioner Reed. If others are comfortable with that, I'll accept the nomination.
So we need
I'll
a
second it.
second. Thank you.
And to stay consistent, any other nominations or? Okay, well, hearing none. I didn't catch who motioned. Sorry, was that Commissioner Schatzel?
Suzanne,
And the second was,
Me, Carlo.
all right, then we will take roll again.
Commissioner Ahmad,
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano,
Aye.
Commissioner Castro,
Aye.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed,
aye.
Commissioner Schatzel,
Aye.
Chair Jans.
Aye.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure serving as your vice chair. I just, I'm in favor of things being passed on and grooming new leadership into our commission. And so I'm happy to step aside and have someone work with you in this position going forward. Thank you.
That's great. I believe in the same. And so as we round out our final year as the standing commission, I think Commissioner Reed brings up a really good point about kind of following along, seeing how these meetings go, feeling free to kind of speak up. And you can actually have a lot of fun on this this commission. It's actually a lot of fun. So I'm ready to pass the torch as well. And so at the end of this term here, we'll have someone step into this role as well, if that's what the commission wants. So great point. All right, go back to the agenda. All right, so we'll move on to item 1B, which is presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission. Just a reminder to the public that the commission is prohibited by law from discussing issues not on the agenda brought to us at this time. Now,
We
is
have not
anybody?
received, sorry, we haven't received any public comments in writing.
And is anyone present in the meeting? Okay,
It doesn't look like there's a member of the public in the meeting tonight.
all right. Well, moving right along. One of my favorite parts of the meeting, item 1C, Commissioner Communications. I love hearing from everybody. Feel free to speak about what you're doing in the community, anything related to parks, any questions, things like that. Feel free to speak now. Anybody have any communications they'd like to share with the commission? Commissioner Reed?
Thank you. I just want to let the commission and the staff know that I've been participating in conversations with the concerning a regional cooperative grant that's coming out of the Strategic Growth Council. And it's intended to promote collaboration on a regional basis. And right now it's in the discussion stages. So it does involve sustainability and resilience, and vulnerable communities in particular are the target audience for receipt of services or combined programs and services from a regional perspective. So I'll send to Tracy a summary of the first call that occurred. The next call is tomorrow, but the group is very much in. There was over 60 organizations represented on the call. So I'll send that information out, and then she may circulate it to the commissioners for further information. It's a relatively, it's still in its very nascent stages, but the proposal, I think, is due at the end of July. So at some point, it's going to accelerate in terms of interest. That's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Vice Chair Horwitz had his hand up, and then I see Commissioner Schatzel as well. Go ahead, Sasha.
Thank you, Commissioner Jans. And I hope this isn't stealing your thunder, but I do need to talk about the great work that took place at West Sac Little League. So my son just finished his rookie year. He's 5. He is not a natural baseball player, but he's definitely the sort of the team mascot. And so I had a 5-year-old who didn't always keep his eye on the ball, but was always great at telling his teammates, let's go, and getting all the rest of the team cheering. And so I really appreciated that experience. I know West Sac Little League, is huge here, and also takes over Memorial Park for weeks. And I know some of the neighbors love it, and I'm sure some of the neighbors wish they could find parking. But it's always such a great experience to see the community come together, and all the terrific volunteers make that work, especially Commissioner Jans. And I doubt he's watching, but I do want to give a special shout out to my son's coach, Ryan Cassidy, obviously a member of the West Sac community, and he just did a great job communicating with all of us, and keeping the team running, even as his 2 kids who were on our team both came down with COVID in the middle of the season, and we had to adapt, but managed to make it a great experience for everybody. So thanks to him and all the other parents who volunteer their time. And we are now looking forward to some of the rest of the Parks Commission's programming, or the Parks Department's programming. So we've got, is it the Junior Giants coming up? I think our first meeting is this weekend, and soccer coming up in a few months after that. And so I just really appreciate all the work everybody does, and love seeing people come together like that. So thank you.
Fantastic. I love hearing that. Commissioner Schatzel, and I see Commissioner Ahmad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did attend one of the public meetings of the Climate Action Plan probably a month ago now. Commissioner Reed was there. One of the meetings was at Emma's, and the owner bought lunch for everybody, which was very gracious. There were a lot of good comments that came out of the meeting related to the plan, and then some suggestions that will come up later, I'm sure. It was a really well-run meeting, and I'm glad I attended. On a personal note, my younger daughter, who graduated from River City a year early, played softball and soccer in town, and lived for a year in Brazil, courtesy of Rotary, studied in Puerto Rico, courtesy of UC Santa Barbara, is graduating this weekend. So we will go down to Santa Barbara and watch her graduate. And she was very active in a lot of the parks and recreation programs over time, and enjoyed her time at River City as well. So I just wanted to share that. Thanks.
Fantastic. Commissioner Ahmad.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just communicate a couple of things. West Sac Soccer Club just wrapped up their competitive tryouts, and I'm not involved as a coach or anything, but on the competitive side, I've done recreation like as a coach. And so I know a lot of the staff, and not staff, but the folks that volunteer for the club and make it run. They were also just saying over the last few months, a lot of good things about Jason and your team. So that was very nice to hear. They like working with you and they feel like they're being heard and communicated with. So that was nice. And I took a lot of pride in that. So thank you, Jason, for what you're doing. And then on a personal note, I'll be my fourth child. Sorry, it's like I lose track. My fourth child is going to start preschool, and I'll be serving as the president of his preschool, which is the oldest cooperative preschool in West Sac, which is part of our West Sac home run, like quality preschooling programming. So I'm excited about that, but also being a liaison between this like institution that's been around for 67 years in West Sacramento. So yeah, I'll be excited to share updates with you all about what's happening there. So thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Other commissioners? Okay, I will share. So it's been a busy 4 months, I guess. I've been, as you all know, West Sac Little League has been a big part of my volunteer time. And I very much love the connection that the Little League has had with the city and staff, and it's kind of drawn me into this commission as well. So I'm really grateful for all that. This will be my last season as president of the Little League. But I want the city staff to know and that I will serve the league in a capacity to continue to, the relationship that we've built over the last 3 or 4 years has been phenomenal. And I'm really excited to what the future Jason and his folks are going to bring to our parks. It's been a challenging season, not just being the tip of the spear, but with COVID has left a lot of lingering issues in supply chain. I've seen things tangible and intangible in people, but we've managed to get through it pretty successfully. And I really appreciate Vice Chair Horowitz' comments about his satisfaction and his enjoyment of the league. That really means a lot to hear that. We don't always hear that people are having fun. We usually just hear when people aren't. So I really appreciate that. As far as what's upcoming for this commission, the Little League will be hosting 2 tournaments this summer at Memorial Park. We'll be hosting the 11U All-Star District Tournament. So that, for those that don't know, the Little League International breaks their tournaments up into, they divide them up into like levels. So the first level is district, and that's going to be West Sac Little League, and then some of the surrounding little leagues like North Natomas, Foothill Farms, Rio Linda. That's the district that we're in. So what's great is we're hosting a 10U team, 10-year-old team, an 11-year-old team, a 12-year-old team. And then with past success of Little League, we've also been able to roster 2 50-70 teams. So these are the teams for the kids that are a little bit older. So they have kind of a gap to play sports between age 12, which is kind of like where you age out of Little League, and before high school. So they can still stay with sports, and a juniors team as well. So we have 5 all-star teams that we've rostered, which was the event that I was at tonight before I came here. So what's great is that the 11U team will start here at home at Memorial Park. So their tournament will begin here at home. That'll begin July 5th, I believe. So it's right on the heels of the holiday. And then the next level of the tournament is what's called sections. So the winners of the different districts, so our district is 6, will play the other winners of surrounding districts in like the North Valley, and that's called the sectional tournament. And so the 10U team will be here also at West Sacramento at Memorial Park, and that's in mid-July. So we're proud of that, and because not only are we getting to host, but it's also kind of a way to show some West Sacramento pride and some areas that don't normally play here. People who wouldn't normally come to West Sacramento are going to come and see Memorial Park and all the renovations we've done, our fields. our flag, all the great stuff, the snack bar, the concessions, all those things are going to be seen by not just West Sac residents, but from all of our surrounding areas, and even greater now that we're hosting the sectional tournament as well. So we're proud of that, and we're looking forward to that. So it will be my last season as a president, but I do very much want to stay involved with the city and the league to keep that going. I think I'll be moving on to coach football at River City High School. So I really enjoy coaching. It's great to be a mentor to young people, and I'm going to keep that going forward. But my son is aging out. I think he's going to move on to other things. So I'm going to follow along on his path like I did to get involved in the Little League, was following his path. So thank you to everyone who supported myself and the Little League along the way. And I really want to invite the commission and staff to come out to have some fun at the ballpark when we host the tournaments. There really are a lot of fun. Come out on a weekend, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday morning or afternoon, and get a kind of a feel for these age groups that are playing their hearts out to win a banner. So, but that's all I have. All right, so moving on, let me jump back to the agenda. Moving on to the consent agenda item number 2, which will be the approval of the minutes for the April 5th meeting. I was not a part of that meeting, so I'll recuse myself from that. But I'll let the commission feel free to motion on the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes.
I'll second.
Is that Commissioner Schatzel and Vice Chair seconding? All right. We'll call a roll.
Commissioner Ahmad,
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano,
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reed.
Former Vice Chair Reed. Aye.
Thank you for that correction. Thank you. Commissioner Schatzel,
Aye.
Chair Jans.
I'm going to stay out. I wasn't in that meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So I'm excited about this one. I think Commissioner Ahmad touched on this as well, so I'm really excited to turn the floor over to Jason for item number 3, presentation on Parks and Recreation Department Park Maintenance Program.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me all right? Well, good evening, Commission, and everybody else. I first want to thank you for this opportunity to give some background, history, and in detail into our Parks Maintenance Program. You know, coming into the city in this position, I knew that I'd be looking deeply into our park maintenance program, and a new set of eyes, you know, really does help to, you know, see the areas that, you know, needed growth, attention, things like that. We have great parks in this community, great staff and everything. So just beginning to develop on those things, I think, is the first real process for what we need to do. You know, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about our current staffing structure, just so the commission has a little bit of time to understand how we are built as a parks operation staff, how we work in our areas, and how we respond to different things. We are a crew-based system that's going back from what I've been able to tell to 2006. Prior to that, the staff worked geographically or park assigned for each staff. There's pros and cons really to either way. I've been in different environments where I've come in and it's been managed in, you know, each different way. I do really see the benefit to what we have here is that the staff isn't held to just 1 or 2 parks by themselves and kind of struggling to keep up with everything. They have different resources at hand with other staff members, or they get to move around a little bit more. It actually, I think it keeps the staff a lot more fresh. They're able to see new and different things, build a more well-rounded skill set. So I do think that the way that the staff is structured right now is actually the most beneficial to us. And it's how they've been working. So, you know, coming in new, obviously, I don't like to approach things and just come in and shake things up, make waves and change everything all at once. You know, I think it's best to kind of observe for a while, make some assessments and see how it is. And I think it is structured very well. There's mainly 4 crews is how our staff is structured right now. There's a north crew, there's a south crew, there's an athletic crew, and an irrigation crew. On top of that, there are also seasonal workers, extra help staff they're defined as within the city, mostly working in what I would define as the growing season, mostly March till November roughly. It varies a little year to year, I'm sure, depending on the staff. They're only allotted a certain amount of hours per year. In the past, it was just under 1,000, and it got bumped up to just under 1,500. So it is actually a big help. It's something that is kind of an ongoing process always with the extra help staff, because unfortunately they are hard to keep secured. You know, when you get the good ones, you have to really, you know, do everything you can to keep them, because they are a huge asset to us. As I said, with the crews being broken into those separate groups, the North crew and the South crew, their defining line is really the Deepwater Barge Canal. That's kind of geographically where they split the city. I'm not sure if that falls exactly on center, but it tends to work pretty well in terms of park load, workload, that sort of thing. The North crew and the South crew both have their challenges. You know, certain things are more heavy in one side of the city than the other, but there is a fair amount in common. They do sometimes bounce around a little bit and help each other out. You know, a big thing also to outline with this is, just because some of the crews are distinctly in separate groups doesn't mean that they never go help another one. We have crews jump in with athletics sometimes or other things to fill in, but for the most part, they tend to stay with their group. The athletic crew is another one of the crews. They manage all of the athletic fields. Typically, that has been to the major programmed facilities, kind of starting from the north and working your way south. It would be Bright, Alice Norman, Memorial, Summerfield, Bridgeway Lakes. But on top of that, there's a lot of other parks and facilities that they still maintain to some level. And I really see us moving towards growing our actual programmed athletic areas. Some of them are lightly programmed with recreation in terms of kind of the spillover, if you will, into finding more open spaces for things or different type of programming than just the traditional stick and ball sports. But there is a need to definitely grow that into some of these other surrounding parks, whether it's Ridgeway Island, Westacre, Elkhorn, Gateway. Some of these areas would be good creative areas to move and shift some of the play on our fields as they become more heavily trafficked. I'm sure you've seen, it's nothing new to me coming from the past city I was at, but to hear, you know, after COVID, numbers really shot up for everything. And, you know, is whatever the numbers are in general anyways, there's always going to be times that to keep the fields conditioned the best they possibly can be and the safest they can be, is there's going to need to be rest periods for those fields for mostly for maintenance activities that my staff would do, different cultural practices like seeding or aerating or different things like that to either heal a field, deal with ongoing problems, continue to make different things better. So there is quite an area that I see that growing in future years in terms of adding new parks and new facilities, or not necessarily new, but just shifting that activity a little bit and taking on more for the athletic crew. Of those dedicated crews, the last of the four main groups is the irrigation crew. It kind of speaks for itself. They're not, and they do quite a bit. It's not necessarily just on an athletic field or just on a park, but it's more to wherever there's irrigation. That could be down, streetscapes. It could be on small pocket parks. It could be athletic fields. It's really everything. They have a ton of work. I don't. The numbers are a little rough, but over 1 million square linear feet of pipe, over 5,000 valves throughout the city. So it's quite a bit of an ongoing project for them. Just keeping up with the day-to-day stuff. As I said, there's some crews of whether they're extra help or seasonal staff, or just others that are a little more not specified, but almost a floater of sorts. So whether it's trails and open space or restrooms or kind of project-y things, that's how it's structured. But for each of the four main crews, north, south, athletic, and irrigation, there's also a chief parks and grounds worker that oversees them. They oversee the day-to-day and even the short-term and work. And my goal is to have them help work on the long-term planning with me too. So they're part of the loop. They know what's going on. They're part of the decision process for some things. So there's four of them. We do have one open position right now that we are hiring for, which would be in the athletics crew. That position, the posting actually just closed, so we're going through applicants right now. And it seems like we have a pretty good group. On top of that, our irrigation chief is actually going to be retiring in the next 6 months or so, towards the end of the calendar year. So our goal for that is to fill that position with him still here, because there's a lot of history that goes into that. That was something from when I first started, just knowing the climate and how much irrigation and water management we need to do. It kind of sends your head spinning a little about how much is in the ground out there, to be honest. So it's something that I feel, and the director feels with me too, that it would be best if we got somebody here to be underneath the existing chief for at least a month or two, to learn some of the ins and outs and the histories on things, or the what's and the whys. So that's really what we'll be working on with that crew in the next couple months. My goal is to have that position posted by the time we have the athletic chief hired. So we'll be working on that. After that, I next wanted to go over our parks maintenance standards and procedures. This is really, I was very happy to see that there already was a document in place. I've had to create these from scratch, which is difficult in a new place. You're kind of building things and trying to learn from the staff on what they've done and how they do it, and also the direction that I would see it going in. So it is helpful to have that. I approach it as a living document of sorts, that we should be going back to that at the very least annually, if not more than that, with input from everyone in my department about as things change, as needs change, different things like that. So as you've seen I'm just gonna jump onto it real quick, sorry. As you've seen, it's quite a robust document. There's a lot of great material in there, whether it's on maintenance of all the different elements of what we do. There was quite a bit of existing stuff that was very helpful and very good to have. I did also add quite a fair amount to it too after seeing the need for things. There are certain items like turf maintenance that wasn't included in there. There were additions to, with that turf maintenance, whether it was just kind of outlining the cultural practices that we need to be doing more of, or fertility, or just the general maintenance of that. It's really applicable to the athletic fields, but also to all of our parks in general, especially as we, have more irrigation restrictions on us, and just overall trying to be more sustainable too. It's really good to have these things outlined in there. I did make some changes also to the mowing aspects of this, as we increase the health of our, whether it's the turf or just plants in general, whether we're increasing that, the actual conditions, or the quality and the health of it, there's going to be more input from us on that too. So I know right now it's at least the mowing, it's really based off of the growing season. So for at least for athletic fields, it's 2 times a week this time of the year. It goes back to 1 time a week later fall, and then kind of they have it on an as needed basis that may be adjusted for those wetter, colder winter months. But it will increase, and I'll touch on the equipment for that too as we get a little further along, to help us with that. But it really, it really will be needed for all of our parks in general. So, I added some material to that. There was another section that I added for sports field maintenance. Obviously trying not to be the turf guy too much with my background, but I saw that as an area that could use some improvement. Whether it's just the normal practices that we do in terms of dragging or edging, or conditioning the fields in some sort of manner. It was not included in the original document. So like I said, it's great to keep these things living and always be editing them and adding things as best as we can. There was some other great information about just basic things like pruning, or even the irrigation. They did break that out. I went in a little more detail, especially as we're coming up with more sustainability initiatives and climate change initiatives, whether that's auditing the irrigation system more, or just the assignment of some of the work like the controller programming and stuff. Another important area that I've dealt with a lot in the past, especially being at a university, that wasn't outlined very detailed in this document originally, was an integrated pest management plan. That's the term in the industry for it. It's really, it describes a lot of pesticide use, really, or the approaches that you use to pesticides and other things and practices that you can do to supplement that. So it's really just outlining that a little bit. That's something that will always be changing too, as new regulations and federal and local things come down and change. That's always something that's living, but it's also something that I like to have all this outlined for my staff too, whether it's the integrated pest management or sports field, so they're aware of everything and they know how to safely approach everything and what we're doing to also protect them. So some edits were made there. Waste and recycling a little bit, added some information for some restroom facilities. So that's where I really wanted to touch on was just how much improvement or additions or edits were made to that document. The next step towards this and how I approach it is just seeing how this impacts the staff. We've talked about it a little bit. I know Commissioner Schatzel brought it up last time. It's not a surprise to anybody that our staffing numbers are down. We're for where we should be to where we are. There's always, I would love to have 100 staff members. That'd be great. We'd be able to do everything, but realistically speaking, we are down staff members from where we were in 2008 to where we are now. There's a lot of that was due to the recession. Some of it was done through restructuring and kind of reorganizing of my department with some positions, whether they were kind of management positions, moving around a little bit. But in general, there's some good charts and everything in your packet, but it really does show that in the past, how we were staffed was roughly 1 full-time employee per 7 acres. And where we're at now with the growth of our additional parks from where they were to today is roughly 1 full-time employee for every 12 acres of parkland. So obviously that number has almost doubled for what staff is doing. And expectations have only grown since then too, of what people in the community expect for conditions, or as safety and liability issues grow. So it is definitely an area that we need to work on. That's really what I wanted to present, and what I wanted to, hopefully I'm not just rambling on, but give the information that I could from this to show how much has changed and how much has added just in those standards and procedures of what we've done and what we grow. That's what really outlines our staffing and the size of the staff that we need and where to go from there. So really the next big steps for this would be staffing and equipment, really. We're already working on equipment to make our operations more efficient and improve the overall conditions. I have noticed a lack of certain pieces in the fleet that would help with that, and just having additional pieces in the fleet. Like I said, it could be something as simple as mowers, and I don't want to say simple and oversimplify it. Like, some of those pieces of equipment are very big, large, expensive pieces of equipment. So it is an investment, but it is something needed for the operations and for the city in general. We have quite a few different items in for budget proposals right now, whether that's mowers or aerators or application equipment. So there are things in there to help improve that. I've also started chipping away at some things with just some small equipment that we can do through operating that helps, whether that's small seeders for baseball infields or things like that, that'll help. But that's going to be an ongoing thing, especially looking at lifespans of equipment, and as things get turned over, it'll be an ongoing rotation to keep everything right. I mean, the worst thing we want is in the middle of the season to have a piece of equipment go down and we're scrambling to even get the most basic of services done. We're never going to see our conditions and our parks and facilities grow if we're always doing back and forth and up and down. And the last would really be staffing. It is a long process. I think this was the best first step towards it, was, like I said, kind of outlining those standards and procedures. There's a few different staffing models that we can look at as going forward. I have some good information that I was able to see. There was an analysis done here on our parks dating back 2005-ish, but it was done with a good approach. That needs to be updated. Takes time to do because it is a very detailed process of assessing and inventorying every single task for every single park to outline the hours for every single park. But that is the next process, the next step that we're working on with my staff, with the chiefs, with everyone's input, so we know they are accurate for the future. On top of that, we're looking into other things that can help offset that, whether that's contracting out some of the smaller parks. We actually have an RFP put together for some of our smaller pocket parks to be able to not cut staff in any way, but focus that staff and shift that staff to areas of higher need, whether that's our larger, more programmed parks or could be more challenging areas. So that's another good step that we're going there. And those are really the next big steps for us. So, I hope that I didn't just ramble on and give too much there, but that's at least where I see things going, where I think that they're best set in motion too. And I plan on having more, as I said, as we do further staffing analyses, or as our equipment fleet grows. And I'd like to be more regular on these, whether that's just even for updates and things. So and also too, for whenever people have questions or whatever, I'm always open. So if there's any questions on this, I'd be more than happy to answer.
So I recognize Vice Chair Horwitz and Commissioner Schatzel and Ahmad. So we'll go in that order, and then Reed. We'll go in that order. So Vice Chair Horwitz, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Jason. Really enjoyed this presentation and this report. And I think I hear a New England accent, which brings me back to my college days. So nice to hear that too. I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around why there's such this was presented, there's a delta between staffing at the beginning of the recession in 2008 and staffing now, at the same time that the square footage that the department is responsible for has increased. And I think obviously you weren't here during most of this period of time. So I'm just trying to understand why haven't we been able to staff up to the levels that we seem to need? I mean, obviously efficiencies, better equipment, that's going to account for some of the need. But is it just that there was an absence of funding? Was it inability to hire? Was it just not the priority of previous superintendents? I mean, any way you could help me understand that, and then point to what could be done to mitigate that going forward. I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. I can't speak exactly to the past on why, maybe things weren't prioritized in certain ways. It could have just been that that different approaches were prioritized. I can say it is a long process. It is something that does need to be very thorough, because there is a large cost implication to it. Growing a staff, I don't want to say doubling, but growing a staff by that much, it is quite a fair bit. So I do know that certain programs were put in place, whether it could be something that doesn't look as much as our GOAT program, that maybe was seen to offset some labor from mowing those areas or doing a lot of handwork in those areas. So it was just possibly, and this is usually it, is it was approached in a different manner. You know, how I'd like to address this is doing that staffing analysis so that when we do eventually have that ask and go to council, that we do have all of the more detailed information to show this is the exact hours or this is the exact staffing per acre that it takes to manage these parks and this facility. And then having that information, you know, that's how I would move forward, is so whenever there's an additional park made or renovation or improvements of some sort, that we do have some sort of benchmarking standard to go off of, to say we increased it by this much, you know, square feet or this many acres. That actually translates to 1.5 or however many staff members. That would be the ultimate success from that, would be to have some sort of benchmarking standard. You know, that it would have to, you wouldn't be able to just rest on that and say that's going to work for us for the next 20 years. You're always going to have to be making tweaks to it and improving it. So much the same as our standards and procedures, that too really should be some sort of living document as technologies change, equipment changes, procedures change. So,
And if I could add, Jason, to that just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, just to build off what Jason's saying, we have a little bit different budget process now, where we're actually asked when we have any new projects that are being requested to be funded, to also consider the long-term costs, staffing needs, utility costs, you know, everything that goes into taking on the responsibility of that project and estimating what those costs will be. We're not always going to get that right, but at least understanding if we take on this project, our long-term commitment is going to be this, you know, whatever that is. And I think it's really on us, our department, our staff, other city staff, we're doing the same thing in all departments, to make sure that we're doing our homework to understand what the long-term consequences of any project are. I didn't do the analysis for all the departments, but I am guessing if we looked at all the staff position lists for all departments since 2008, you'll probably see every department has fewer staff. Most cities have still not fully recovered from the recession. And with the recession, the recovery has been a cautious one. And it is a lot about money, because the city's costs for each employee have increased significantly over the years. Their contribution to PERS, insurance requirements, and it's not even just the salaries. So that's all of that plays into it. And honestly, I think we just have to do a really good job of tracking, so that as we grow our Parks and Rec system, we're growing the maintenance support, whatever that looks like. So we can take care of what we build, because when we did the Parks Master Plan and asked the community for their input on how we should invest in our Parks and Recreation system, the number one priority was take care of what you already have. And so we're really trying to establish a good baseline right now, so that as we grow, we're not always playing catch up. Because we are playing catch up big time right now. So I hope that helps to answer that question.
Thank you.
I believe we had Commissioner Schatzel, then Ahmad, and then Reed. Go ahead, Commissioner Schatzel.
Thank you, both Tracy and Jason. Jason, if you don't mind, I'm going to take a copy of this staff report and I'm going to file it with the Historical Society. I'm serious, because it does a brilliant job of describing almost from day one of city incorporation to where we are now in the park maintenance division. It was really well done. And everything we do on this commission costs more maintenance. Every Little League game, this weekend, I saw all kinds of great stuff about a parade, you know, the annual parade Little League does is fantastic. I went out to Summerfield And the staff was replacing the bowler area on the cricket field, or the cricket field. And then this weekend, the cricket folks were out there. As I mentioned, I went to the climate change meeting. One of the suggestions was plant more trees. All of that, a great suggestion, but all of that is more maintenance. We have a meeting tomorrow on the park, the planning process for the park on South River Road. If the number one comment from the public, as Tracy mentioned, was take care of what we have, we keep going forward, and rightfully so, to build the kind of community we want, but everything is more maintenance. Lights on the tennis courts, the coffee shop at the park we just planned, and I forgot the name of it already.
Heritage Oaks.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was good coffee, by the way, when I was out there. We took out the home run fence at Bridgeway Lake so more people could use the grass. All of that is more maintenance. Everything we do is more and more and more, and we're already behind. And to be blunt, I don't care about the other departments. Let them worry about themselves. You know, we got bashed pretty good a couple of weeks ago on social media for maintenance, and what's not in the report, but it is a little bit, and we all understand, we can't predict the cost of vandalism. We can't predict that. We can guess, you know, in the past we've spent this much money, or how many gopher condo projects we're going to get at Bright Park. I mean, all of that is just enormous time consuming maintenance. And I think we need to work with the staff. And Tracy, I know you mentioned it, trying to figure out the long-term impacts of everything. And you're doing a great job of that. But the commission needs to work with the staff. We need more people. We need more lawnmowers. And we're hearing that from the public. You know, just go out and talk to people. And everybody on the staff, they're doing everything they can to try to keep up with everything. I saw the new mural today. I call it the tunnel, but it's got another name. But you know, we have to maintain the artwork in most cases. When it's done with the contract, it falls to the park maintenance people. And the climate change meeting, there was a comment made, and I briefly saw this on social media. The water tower in the Riverwalk Park has been redesigned, or is going to be redesigned. It was not well received by the person that brought it up in our committee, and that hasn't come to this commission. That's another topic. But again, that's maintenance. It's in a park. It's more maintenance that's going to fall somehow to the park maintenance department. They are very, very understaffed, under-resourced, and the budget, as you mentioned, is finished now, or darn close, but it's a 2-year process now. It's a 2-year budget. So I hope.
It's a biannual budget, but we do midterm adjustments. So we have midterm budget going to council in June 15th for a workshop and July 20th. And we do have funding requests built into those budgets for both equipment and contracting some support work for now.
Good. I mean, fabulous, because I was hoping we didn't have to wait 2 years to wait for a lot of the stuff that in this report. It's very clear. I mean, you know, it's hard having been a soccer coach, and Commissioner Ahmad brought this up, spent years coaching at Summerfield Park, where the grass is significantly different than at Bright Park. So even though we would have a home match at Bright Park, the turf was so different, it was an away match. And the way you would coach at Bright Park, because of the turf, was different in teaching skills that at Summerfield, because the grass is always taller at Summerfield, it's harder to dribble and you have to kick the ball harder. So the tactics and the whole instruction of the game completely changes from one park to another. So there's just, we need to help as a commission, I think, Jason and the staff to look at those park maintenance resources and help the city council understand we're already behind. And we just keep going on, and more and more and more. Joey Lopes Park, the Creekway that was done. I mean, we keep adding, we keep building, and it's all good, but we've got to keep catch up now on the maintenance end. And then we need to go forward, try to get ahead of this a little bit better so we can continue to do the Little League tournaments. So people are proud when they come into town, because for years and years, people would come into town and look at Alice Norman and look at Bright, where Bright used to have more soccer fields than anywhere in the region except Cherry Island Park, which is a Sac County park. And people would come into West Sac at those facilities and look around and amaze. We had no idea they had this in West Sac. Well, yeah, guess what? At the same time, from a maintenance standpoint, we used to paint the grass green during the tournaments because it gets hot like today and like this week. And all of a sudden we get little brown spots, and these people are coming in from, you know, the sectionals. They were coming in from Reading. They were coming in from Red Bluff. And so we were, you know, mixing green paint with water to match the color of the grass, because we always wanted to put our best foot forward. But that was also enormously maintenance, time consuming. And you spend all the time on Memorial or all the time on Bright, and you're not paying attention to Bridgeway Lakes, or you're not paying attention to the Riverwalk Park. So anyway, I'm looking forward to working with staff to try to get more resources, to try to catch up to the deficit and try to get ahead of this so we can keep moving in the direction that the community wants to go. And so we can keep that momentum going forward. So thank you. Great report. And I'm going to file that. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's a good summary on a lot, you know, from day one. It's a really good summary. So thank you for your work. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Commissioner Schatzel,
thank you.
please don't file that one because I found a typo in the table that I'd like to correct before you file it, okay?
Well, they'll
Our trails
understand.
have grown. Our trails have grown. It doesn't show any growth in trails, but we actually have had, I will tell you, 13 additional miles of trail added to our system. So I just want to make sure we capture that.
Oh, I was going to say, if it was a typo, then they would know. If it was from me and they would understand. It's okay. It's from Don. It's a typo. It's okay. So yeah, all right. But you got my point. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for your support. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I think of whenever it comes to change or additions. Anywhere I've been is just, this is adding maintenance. This is adding
Everything.
more time for my staff in places and pulling them away from other things. And without growing it, everything suffers.
You know, I need
not just one place or another. So
Jason, I have to tell you this. Long ago, I personally took 102 photographs, made copies for every single park maintenance worker we had, and said, these are the standards by which we will now maintain our parks. We would find syringes in the playgrounds, right where the kids, you know, you jump off the swing and you land. I mean, I think we've all done that. So we were raking sand, and then it became wood chips every day because of that. And that was just the standard maintenance. But that's a lot of time to stand in there and rake and rake and rake and rake, and you're not mowing and you're not doing other stuff, but it was all about safety, and it was all about protecting the people and all that sort of stuff. So, and that's, you can't measure that when you look at how many park workers do you need per acre. You know, you can't say, well, we're going to spend an hour and a half a day raking a playground. Well, sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's not, you know. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schatzel. Very well put. Commissioner Ahmad.
Thank you. I think some of these things that I was going to ask have been addressed, but so I have a few questions and you can kind of answer them as I go. Apply for clarity. So you mentioned that there are seasonal workers that are about 1,400 hours or so. A full-time worker generally, how many hours do they usually work?
I'm sure there is some standard. I know what I've looked at in an analysis. I try and factor in all of their time too, whether it's vacation or leave time or sick time or anything like that. On average, ballparking, it's somewhere around 18 to 1,900 hours a year, roughly. It varies depending on staff and their tenure here. based, on how much leave time and other things that they've accrued throughout the year. But on average, it would probably be around that 1,800 number mark.
Makes sense. I think this was addressed earlier when Tracy was kind of filling in as well, but I was just curious, when you compare West Sac to a similar sized city in the region, like I was curious about what their staffing is like. And she mentioned that it's not just this department, but all across America, recession hasn't let up, right? Like people still have are working low staffed. So yeah, I was thinking Davis, but I don't know if that's like an equal comparison. So in your experience, just from being here, what have you kind of learned about the staffing?
I'm starting to, network and meet a lot of my peers in other cities. I find it very helpful for, situations like this to kind of see what other standards are. I even use it as great experiences to develop my staff. Some of what, whether it's through seminars or even just having them be able to see somewhere else. That's something that helps improve our efficiencies and shows them, what our standards should be. But it varies a lot. I don't want to say it's encouraging to me. I'm not happy that my industry is down across the board, but it is. It's not just in this region, but all across the country. This is a battle everywhere you are. And it's usually from the same exact reason that Commissioner Schatzel highlighted, is that as communities and cities and districts grow and grow and grow, they never have equal growth within their staff to match that, growth in square footage or acreage. It's kind of the culture, I guess. It's not something that was always easily addressed. But, in our region too, it varies a lot. There's certain communities, I believe Woodland's one of them. I think Davis might too, where they contract out a lot of their work. We contract out a fair amount, I would say a fair amount of our work when it comes to either CFD kind of landscaping, streetscapes, stuff like that, or tree work, the things. But there's a lot of other communities that almost contract out everything. So all of their parks, it's hard to give an exact comparison, even in acres to acres, because some communities may just have decided to contract everything out. So they have a very, very small staff size that's just for that kind of on-call, on-demand type things. So it's without being too long-winded, it's hard to make an exact comparison.
I appreciate that. And I understand there's not going to be an easy answer, because every community, as you mentioned, is it's democratic. So everyone kind of decides for themselves what works best. So that makes sense. And I agree, if I were not to be long-winded myself, but I'm growing up in this region from Central Valley to here. I agree with you. I have noted that the old kind of vanguard of how we kind of fund things like public goods, like spaces like parks, the mentality and the perspective is very outdated based on what's actually happening literally on the ground, like what people are doing with the parks and wanting with the parks. One thing that, for instance, I've always been annoyed at with growing up in this area is that people used to always say, oh, Sacramento is just like 2 hours from Tahoe, an hour from the Bay Area, as if you can just escape, but not actually kind of invest in the community. And I've always just do it. It just makes me cringe. But now that gas prices are high, I'm like, well, you have to invest. And then also with climate change, you can't, it's not as easy to get in your car and just leave town. You have to invest in the place that you're in. So couple other things I wanted to ask were, you mentioned in the report about increasing play fields, which was in our report about the master plan, and we need more play fields. And you mentioned the school district, and I know this has been addressed before, but in your perspective as like a newcomer or someone like fresh eyes, what is our relationship like with the school district? What could they do better to help the parks department?
Tracy might be able to speak about that a little bit better in a short time.
I mean, First, I just want to say, I mean, we're so lucky to even have access to the play fields on the north part of town that our school district own. If we didn't have Westacre, Westfield, Bright, Alice Norman, Elkhorn, those are all school district owned properties. So our partnership with the district is absolutely essential to provide, access to recreation and, a lot of our athletic fields in our community. I say that, our relationship is very good. In fact, the school district has been very supportive of the Westacre project that we're finally going to be moving forward with. That's going to be an amazing project, the renovation and expansion of that. And they've been very supportive. On some sites, it is very challenging when we have limited access, where we assume all of the maintenance requirements, but the public only has access to park sites during certain hours. And it would be, that goes beyond just the school district. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the security and safety of our children at school and wanting to be able to manage that. So different school districts approach it differently. But, as we move forward, the more opportunity we get to be able to utilize some of the school district's play fields, courts could be courts or their play fields, the more that we can take advantage of that, the better, because it really just leverages resources so much. And it's not always easy jointly managing facilities, as Paul can speak to, as he manages a joint use facility at the rec center. It's more complicated. Multi-benefit projects are inherently more challenging to build and maintain, but you do it because it's the right thing to do. So I think there's still a lot of opportunity to look at district properties, and we really do appreciate the relationship that we have with them and their support.
That's great. My older son used to play Little League in the Pocket area, and we'd always practice at Robert Matsui. And that was back like 7, 8 years ago. And I was always wondered, like, oh, how come we can't do this after school for soccer, for instance? So but yeah, I totally get it. It's a maintenance and a relationship thing. And I completely, as a parent, especially with what happened in Uvalde, like security and safety for kids is unfortunately something we have to think about. And not just beyond like, oh, keeping them safe, but there's like active shooters and such like that. So I completely understand the challenge there. And I guess my question was not so much that like, is there an antagonistic relationship versus a good one, but like, as a parent with children in the district and as a voter here, like, I think kind of touching on what Dawn had mentioned, there's such a lack of knowledge around what goes into maintaining public spaces. And the more people know about that, the better, whether it's parents in the district who are making decisions as voters or beyond that. So if we were to like have a better idea, a better sense of like kind of what that relationship is like, I think we could be better at pushing both entities to making the right decision when it comes to funding. So it's not a transparency issue. It's just more about just common knowledge, just increasing that amongst people. And this came up I think last year. And I had asked about this regarding like a youth corps. I think there is one for in West Sac that works maybe with the parks maintenance to kind of like get job skills. Do we have that?
There's a couple of different programs. So we have, as a city, we have a very successful summer internship program where we offer paid internships for high school students and college students. But if they're high school students involved in career pathway programs, they actually get preferential treatment in the selection and hiring process. But we offer positions for them throughout the city so that they learn about all aspects of the city, how local government works, but then they also do focused work in a specific division. So before COVID, that program was running very well. We're not bringing it back this summer, but hopefully we'll bring it back next year. We also have a similar kind of program through the West Sac Home Run program, and they have paid internships as well. We also have the We have our Teen Heroes program that works with our high school students, and we employ a lot of high school students, not in park maintenance, but in other aspects of the department to give them job skills, and hopefully they become future full-time employees of the city. But there are some other local programs like NCCT, the Northern California Construction Training Program, that are housed right across from Bright Park, and they actually do apprenticeship programs in partnership with the high school. And we try to use NCCT for, our park projects. In fact, they're part of all of our grant applications now for projects because it's a great partnership. And those are the only ones I'm familiar with.
Okay. Yeah, I was just, I think you mentioned this before too, so thank you for being so thorough. And I guess I was thinking, how do those fit into not only integrating youth into the community, but learning more about park maintenance and just developing green job skills for in the future. And then lastly, and this wouldn't alleviate the staffing issue. This is more just so kind of, again, creating a better sense of community and stewardship over our public spaces. For instance, I live in a cul-de-sac, and there's a little piece of, there's pathways connecting the neighborhoods, but there's this little random piece of the trapezoid of land. It's got a tree and grass. I think it's nice, but I'm oh, this must be kind of a pain to have to come here and maintain throughout the whole. So what can neighbors do in the neighborhood to say okay, we want to, let's say, take over this little area and maintain it ourselves, to alleviate a little bit of work for the park staff, but also in terms of climate change, what we have right now is grass and a tree, and the tree isn't even it's not I don't think it's a California native. It's not water drought tolerant or something. So what kind of things do you all have in mind? And this is not necessarily in line with Jason's report, but just thinking in terms of those spaces and how to create more stewardship amongst neighborhoods.
Yeah, I encourage volunteer, activity or ownership of some of these things. I do work with a fair amount of, just in my short time here, at least the sports leagues to start. There's also some other groups that have reached out, local businesses, local organizations. I love all of that stuff. If I look at it selfishly, yeah, it helps offset our labor. So it's a win-win for me on that. I support them in every way I can. I'd love to get it to an eventual, some sort of standard that we have a yearly kind of an annual sign up for things, and we can, it's easy. That's how I would like to structure it. And it may take some time to get there, but it would help me organize it better and plan it better. That's the hardest thing when it comes to some of these volunteer opportunities, is they're kind of one-off things, or maybe it's a group like the Girl Scouts that do a fair amount of work with me and my staff, that they're kind of one-off things, or they're brought up at the last moment, and you're kind of just throwing something at them. This, we need to help with this will work. It'd be much more if we had the support a little more long-term, to have it planned out more, so that we could say that, all right, ownership of this small park is going to this community group or something like that. Yeah, I encourage all of that. So
I love that you love it. And I'm wondering, has that ever been approached with places with groups like West Side Play, since they're a nonprofit that kind of is channeling their efforts into parks and such?
I haven't been, Tracy might be able to speak a little more about West Side Play. I know they've done some work in, fundraising for certain facilities, but she might be able to speak more about that one group and if they've ever reached out. But I have a fair amount of people reach out on a weekly basis about things like that, and I'm trying to get them structured and a little more organized. We have a cleanup day with a local business for one of our parks that we're organizing that has a lot of volunteers that would probably offset my crew's, at least 3 to 5 staff members for a week. So it's great that way.
Yeah, we have a lot of organizations that routinely ask for ways to help, like the West Sac Trail Riders Association, Bear Crop Science, West Sac Play, Girl Scouts, church groups, and sometimes they bring with them resources that help to actually fund materials and supplies needed to do work. And sometimes it's just labor and us being able to organize the event, as Jason mentioned. I will say that I think the hardest thing about that is it takes time to be able to plan and manage these partnerships, which are really wonderful. We just, because we're playing catch up all the time, that's a big piece that's missing. You know, if we could have a very strategic approach to, these are all the things we're going to rely on volunteers for this year, and when are we going to do it, and let's outreach to them. You know, that would be a really great place to be. And I hope we get there so that we can just be a little more strategic about all of the help that the community wants to provide us already, and then growing that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. And Jason's report has got, I think, myself and everyone else here excited to see that finally kind of happening. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmad. Commissioner Reed?
Thank you. I wanted to comment on Commissioner Ahmad's comments, which and what Tracy and Jason have followed up with. I think something of the nature of an Adopt a Park program that also tied into internship and job training, apprenticeship job training, recognizing that in and of itself is another program that needs to be managed. But I think if strategically those kinds of opportunities could be organized in a way that would be beneficial, excuse me, and the return on investment would be of the energy and the resources that Parks and Recreation would have to put into it. If I think the return on investment of that could be demonstrated. So I hope to have further discussions on that program going forward. I wanted to compliment Jason on the presentation and also thank him for an interaction I had with him earlier regarding my interest in non-toxic parks and recreation. We had a very good exchange of information about, you know, his background and training, and I learned something about field maintenance for recreational sports. So that that was very helpful to me in sort of understanding the complexity of trying to manage parks in a sustainable and resilient way while minimizing the use of non-toxic substances to which, you know, people and children and pets are exposed. So very happy to see the kinds of efforts that he's included into the plan at this point. And in the, again, back to the employment, one thing I think we need to be also sensitive about, and the rest of my comments are really going to be about climate change. And one is that it's going to get hot, hotter. And our Parks and Recreation people are out there working in the heat. So I hope that we're, while we are asking them to do more work, we're also mindful of the environment in which they have to work and the conditions under which they work to maintain our parks. And that's something else that I think the public could be made more aware of in terms of, you know, it's not easy. So, and we're going to have to be more mindful of it in terms of attracting employees and people that want to do this kind of work and understanding the environment and the challenges that they face when they're doing it. It all figures into the equation. With respect to our future planning, and I've made these comments before, you know, also, and I know that from responses of Tracy and other staff that we are very mindful of climate change, the drought, and the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from fuels and other activities. So incorporating native plants and drought tolerance in our future maintenance and new park development and planning, I think it's going to continue to be a more and more important aspect of the future planning for parks and recreation creation and maintenance. And along the lines of the equipment conversation that we just had, with that, there's, first of all, I'm sure that you're using out-of-date equipment, but we do want to repair and restore as much as we can before we ditch old equipment, and recycle parts and all those things. And I'm sure you're doing it, if not driven by climate change issues, driven by cost and necessity, I'm just hoping that we're looking at what fuels and what our equipment is relying on, and what materials they're made of, and their ability to be sustainable and long lasting. And so I know bureaucracy can get saddled with the lowest bidder phenomenon, but let's make sure we're buying good equipment that can be maintained and that will last a long time. So you get what you pay for, and so some of these new equipment may be a little bit more expensive, but they also will speak to the issue of reducing our carbon footprint. And I wanted to also say that the equipment that's installed at our new parks and facilities or as replacements, that we all should be mindful of the materials of which they're made, and the again, the longevity of those materials, as well as their carbon footprint, and that we are trying to incorporate as many materials that have either recycled content, again, being mindful of the safety and longevity of the equipment going forward. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reed. Any other commissioners have any questions or comments for Jason or staff? Okay, I'll jump in. So thank you for the presentation. I've been looking forward to this. So for the community that's watching and everyone who's here, I want to speak to the character and devotion that Jason has presented to myself. As you know, I mean, Little League has been a big focus of mine, but I also look at the bigger picture. I can't fly at a higher level. I've been in the community for over 20 years and have watched it grow. And Jason has really been there, at least at the lower level for me, in the issues that we faced, for the athletes that I've been blessed to help bring along into the sport that I've been coaching. Private communications, answering the phone on weekends. He's really been an outstanding addition to the city staff. So I just wanted to kind of recognize the effort that Jason's been putting in such a short amount of time. I mean, I think he's only been here since January, if I'm correct. So, and even immediately, I think in the first 4 weeks, Jason and some staff took the time out to meet with some representatives from the Little League to kind of talk about some of the issues and things we'd been facing over the last handful of years prior to his arrival. So we've had some pretty in-depth conversations that relate specifically to youth baseball. But as we all know, the city hosts a lot of programming, from football to soccer to cricket. I mean, we've talked softball. There's a lot of different sports and then also just, weekend recreation, the water parks and picnic areas. I mean, all of these things collectively fall under the umbrella of Parks Recreation staff. I'm of the opinion that part of the reason I love being a part of this commission is because I have a belief that parks are really kind of the core of any community. I mean, outside of when you look at a new community, you look at some services or maybe some amenities that are in the area or the neighborhood you're looking at. But then what a lot of people really do is look at the parks. What sort of outdoor recreation is available, and where can I bring my family or my friends to enjoy in the city or whatever this town that I'm looking to buy in or to move to locate in. And I think it's important that the community understands the impact that parks have on a city. I think as you drive around a city, that's one of the first things you notice. If you drive to another area, you're driving around, wow, what a beautiful football field, what a beautiful park, what a beautiful, and you really kind of see that, and it almost kind of gives you this, I don't know, this feeling. And so I think we all seem to be passionate about parks, or we wouldn't be a part of this commission. So I think you'll have the support from all of us, from what I'm hearing, in the efforts that you have going forward with council or with budget. So some of the things I have are just some questions, and others maybe just some ideas. If you have any challenges in presentations or in meetings outside of this commission regarding equipment or budgets or things like that. Regarding equipment, there are some things out there, and Jason, I mean, you're the expert on these things. But like, I know we have kind of Jason and I have an inside thing, because we have a member of a Little League who's been really high on this tractor that can do multiple jobs. And it's not cheap, but it's not overly expensive. But I was curious if, number one, if any of the equipment that you're looking at could help one individual. So staffing seems to be a big part of the president. I mean, it's right there in front of you that you're well understaffed for the amount of coverage you have. So is any of the equipment, other than like mowers and aerators and things like that, are any of them available to maybe help one individual do the job of multiple individuals? One piece of equipment that can rake, mow, aerate, things like that, around different parks and different areas, and help with staffing in that capacity.
Yeah. There's always a balance in equipment and its versatility, that sometimes to be so versatile in all these different facets is you sacrifice away from the fine touch that it would have for certain things. So there is a balance. I work a lot with that, whether it's trade shows and expos, networking with peers of mine or local communities on what's worked for them. I hate being the guinea pig, to tell you the truth. It costs a lot in the long run. So having those conversations, educating yourself on the new updates and all that stuff. But that is always a goal of mine, to optimize a piece of equipment, whether it's to Commissioner Reed's concerns about carbon footprints and impacts, to where one thing can take the place of 4 things. Or it just makes us more efficient. There actually is some equipment in the first decision in our budget package that we have that does do things versatile. You could look at it as something as simple as a larger mower. Well, the mower that I have proposed actually takes the place of 2 mowers. So that mower could do all of Bright Park by itself, or all of Ridgeway Lakes, in place of having 2 guys out there doing it. There's another piece of equipment that can take multiple sorts of attachments. It can mow slopes, it can mow open areas. You can put stuff on it for infield, renovations and conditioning on baseball fields or softball fields. So it's always one of those things. It's a big part of what I do, is just the constant education and upkeep in the technologies that are developing, and finding a way to implement those into our fleet and into our program without having that guinea pig effect, without us becoming the test dummy for it. Because I've seen it happen a lot of times, and you end up costing yourself a lot of money in repairs and parts and downtime and all these other things. So you do have to balance it a fair amount, but there is a good place for it. And it's slowly, it's without just making one, giant swipe and doing everything at once. It's implementing it a little bit slowly here or there. There's certain things. It could even be fleet equipment. I propose to include an electric vehicle, an electric pickup truck into our fleet, because we're coming up to that stuff eventually. It's something that we need to be ready for. It's the best thing for the environment. But I don't want to just change the whole fleet out. I want to know what the strengths and weaknesses of them are and have it go through all different crew members, see its charging, see its strengths and weaknesses. So by implementing that slowly, we'll be able to make better financial decisions, better fleet decisions and programming and operationally. So it is a balance. It's about taking small bites. You can't eat the elephant all in one bite. So yeah, that's how I like to approach it, at least.
Well, it makes sense. And there's also, I mean, something that we've run into as well is supply chain issues with maintenance. So
Yeah.
some of the equipment that you're purchasing, you mentioned, having backups so that you're not without a mower or a certain piece of equipment.
Yep.
I think that's a good strategy because if you're waiting on a part, it may not be here for a while, which I've learned the hard way this year.
We're facing that with a lot of things, unfortunately, for equipment and fleet. We ordered a seeder that was manufactured domestically, and it was ordered in February, and it just came into the dealership last week. So, that was only made a few states away, and it took that long just because of material shortages and other things. Yeah, when you are talking about large scale equipment, even made domestically, there's certain companies, it's you could be looking at 9 months or more lead times on things. So when a piece of equipment does go down, it could impact the whole operation and shut down and really, really alter a lot of things. So having that resiliency in place so that you are able to deal with things, because unfortunately it's, no matter how good it is, that's why there's mechanics, because it all breaks down, it all needs maintenance and everything. It's just the nature of it.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, I mean, if it's not already in your presentation, I think that's a key point in terms of if it's brought up, why the need for multiple of the same thing. Just something that I think is a valid point to bring up to them if it's questioned. And the other thing is irrigation. I know we've talked a lot about it. I have seen an improvement in the greenery of the parks. If the commission hasn't, it has definitely improved over the last month. And I think to Commissioner Reed's point about it getting hotter, this is going to be something that where I think we as a city need to have a good balance of water conservation along with the ability to keep our parks green so that they can be used and enjoyed during these hotter months. What I heard you mention about having, irrigation staff, and I think in your matrix, it looks like there's not a whole lot of people dedicated to this, but the maintenance and the management, the regular testing. So even though the sprinkler heads are there, they're scheduled to turn on, having somebody who regularly checks their coverage, checks their operation, so that there's not water just shooting straight up in the air and not only being wasteful, but also, that it's being utilized in the right way. So I don't know if that's another area in which, limited hour contract work could be looked at for irrigation, and proposed, to contract with some irrigation specialists who are maybe limited hours and they are, not getting in the way of any, labor contracts or anything like that, but they're just utilized in a specific way to keep up with, those finer details that make sure that whatever water we are using is being used effectively and efficiently, and that, a park doesn't get fried over a 2 or 3 day heat wave. Or an area of a park doesn't get fried over a heat wave like that. So I don't know if that's part of the proposal as well, but I certainly think it could be.
No, it's a very, very important item. I mean, coming from the area of the country where I was, where irrigation, there's a need for it, but obviously not as much as here. It is a very important aspect of my staff and what we do. You know, to touch on a few of those areas, that is something that I did actually add updates to the staffing procedures and standards, was adding more language to the irrigation side of things that will then in turn guide us staffing wise and showing the need for what the staffing is for the work that they should be doing. Whether, you know, whether, like you mentioned, regular auditing of the irrigation, it's, you know, it's for multiple reasons. It's not just necessarily to have the most lush, beautiful thing, but also to conserve water at the same time. So there are, you know, lots of elements of that have been added to this that will continue to develop, that are very, very important aspects of what we do. I know you touched on something else. I already forgot.
It's okay. I'm gonna touch on a lot of things, so it's okay.
Yeah.
With regard to any proposal of additional staffing, I don't know if I or maybe I didn't hear it, but what the roadblock is or what's being proposed in the budget to add additional staffing. And I guess to piggyback on that, what I've seen after the impact of COVID is a huge spike in the increase in athletics and usage of our parks. I don't know what, I couldn't tell you specifically why. I mean, I have my own theories as to why, but after being, you know, quarantined for a while, you know, maybe children and adults are wanting to become outside and be more active. You know, it's part of, I think, what we were originally kind of allowed to do before we could kind of get in large groups. So everyone just went and played softball or soccer or basketball, whatever it was. But I mean, in the Little League, we had over 640 players this year, which is the largest I've ever seen in my 8 or so years. And it's come with good and bad. I mean, there's some behavioral issues that are coming out of it, but I guess what I'm getting at is the impact of sports has on youth is huge. The accountability, confidence, I mean, all these things kind of play into these things. So I guess my question is, what is the roadblock, if any, to hiring more staff? And if there is a roadblock, the increase in athletics may be something that might help present the request for more staff.
I can speak to that a little bit, if that's okay, Jason.
Yeah.
I think in terms of timing, now I'll say in the last few years, we have added staff to our department. So as bad as the numbers may look right now to you, they were worse a few years ago. So we've been able to get staffing. We've added an additional Parks and Grounds worker. We have been able to bring back a retired annuitant to help support landscape maintenance contracting in our CFDs and landscape and lighting districts, and our tree program, which we also manage, you know, as a department. And also some staff under Jason that help support our homeless cleanup and enforcement program, which is really managed very, very much by the police department, because that is a different type of maintenance activity. But we generally don't add new positions in our midterm budget. So the biannual budget is the time where we look at more major staffing shifts. So midterm is supposed to be minor adjustments because the council has approved a 2-year budget. And, you know, not a lot is really supposed to change between year 1 and year 2 to warrant additional full-time staffing requests. Not to say it doesn't happen, but our approach this year has been, let's make sure we've done our homework to know what we really need. And I mean, we know we need staff. We're trying to be very smart about how we contract for services to help support our existing staff. And then, as Jason mentioned, you know, looking at some benchmarking to give us more information to help us develop recommended next steps that we can share with the commission and then share with the council as part of the biannual budget, which will really, once we get the midterm done, it's another 6 months and we're already into the planning for the biannual. So it's just right around the corner when we have Bright Park that's coming up and West Acre that's coming up, and hopefully grant funding awarded for Heritage Oaks Park. And all of those are going to point to the need for additional staffing.
And then on top of that, we also, knowing that we won't necessarily be able to react right away with the biannual budget with full-time staffing, I have put together a budget request for additional support for extra help staff so that we can also try and get some more of that seasonal help to help us through that growing season too. So, you know, some of it may be a little more, I hate to say the word immediate, but we are trying to work on it the best we can and as soon as possible.
So it sounds like you have a plan to get more staff over time within the next few quarters. Is that fair? Okay.
Yeah. And always be, for me at least, I mean, I know I'm a young guy, but I plan on being here for a long time, is to have it always be an ongoing thing. I'd love to have some sort of benchmarking standard, some sort of, you know, formula, if you will, to when these new things, because it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep adjusting, that we're able to deal with it.
And one thing that Jason mentioned that I want to highlight, because this affects all of our programming, and Paul could speak to this, and you know, Connie could speak to it with her staff, but as minimum wage increases in the state, it makes it that much more challenging to hire these extra help positions when you can make $17 or $18 an hour working at McDonald's or Target. And we're asking people to clean public restrooms and do really hard, you know, manual labor work for $16 an hour or $15.50 an hour. We really have to think about how we can, you know, position ourselves to be more competitive in the hiring process. It's just, you know, it's a challenge for all Parks and Rec agencies. We're hearing it from everybody. But it's a real challenge because we might have extra help positions available that we can't always fill.
I hadn't even thought of that.
It is definitely a struggle, and it's not just here in California. I felt it very hard in the last city I was in New Hampshire, with a ridiculous low minimum wage that we're constantly competing that way. So you know, the best is how I have the postings at least structured for our extra help or seasonal help, is just to always have it ongoing, not to have a window closed. So we kind of have a bullpen to pull from when we need to.
And I guess on that leads me to my last kind of second to last question. Are any of the grants that we've been pursuing, or like within Prop, I think it's 68 or something like that, some of the Bees Lake project stuff, do any of these grants provide the usage of hiring staff? I know, like in the fire department, we had a SAFER grant, but don't ask me what it stands for because I don't remember. But it was essentially a grant through the state in which we were able to hire employees for like a 2-year term as part of the grant. And then most of those employees were then transitioned into, you know, full-time city staffed employees. So do any of the grants that we're pursuing to build more of these park areas, do they allow for the hiring of any? No, I'm saying this.
No, there are very few programs out there that actually fund staffing. All of the grants that we've applied for park projects are for capital improvements only. And as part of the grant application process, you do have to demonstrate the capacity to take on the ongoing maintenance to have those improvements in place for whatever that grant performance period is. So it's really on us to make sure that we are educating you as commissioners and educating our council on the long-term consequences of accepting grant funding. And luckily, a lot of our projects, trail projects, and even some of our open space areas, fortunately, you might be eligible for Measure E funding, which is separate from the general fund, which provides an ongoing, separate revenue source to consider for some of these projects. But park projects are generally general fund. As we build new communities like Yarborough, River Park, or Liberty, there's an opportunity to explore ways that those projects can build within the community facility districts or even their HOAs some maintenance support for parks, but generally it's gonna fall into the general fund.
Okay. All right. So I guess my last question is, you're proposing the budget for a lot of the things that we've covered here today and in the presentation. And I'm understanding that's on June 15th. Is that right?
The workshop is on June 15th, and then the final budget is planned for council consideration on July 20th. There's only one council meeting in July.
Okay. That's the actual meeting. So what I'm getting at is, how can we, either as a commission or drum up community support for your proposal, your efforts? What can we do? What can we do to help?
Well, I'll say we really appreciate your support. And when we submit our budget requests, we have a very formal process we go through, and we identify that we have shared information with this commission, and we don't really bring anything forward to council that we don't feel would be supported by this commission or the other commission that our department oversees. So I think the council knows that this commission supports it. I would encourage you all, if you have time, either on June 15th or after, you can watch it on our website, but the budget workshop. And I think you have a much better understanding of where there's support for items moving forward in the budget process, or where we might need to make some changes.
Okay, June 15th workshop budget. So will we see an email about that, or how is that going to be communicated?
Well, I would encourage you all right now, if you're really interested in watching the council meeting live, put it on your calendar for 7 p.m. on June 15th. We typically don't send out reminders for council meetings, but we can certainly do that if this commission would like us to do. It's next week, just right around the corner.
No, I apologize. I guess I was confused on which one was the council meeting, which one was the workshop budget, the budget workshop.
They're both council meetings.
Okay.
Which is the first time the midterm budget's being presented to council. It's in a workshop format as part of the regular council meeting. So I apologize if that was confusing. And then in July, again, regular council meeting, it will just be requesting an action from council based on the input we received during the workshop item.
Okay, I understand. All right, thank you. All right, that's all I have. Thank you again for the presentation and for working through all the questions and comments. I appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so moving on to item number 4, the general administration function 4A, director's report, Tracy Michael.
Thank you, Chair Jans, members of the commission. I'm going to keep my items very brief because we have some other team members that have updates for you. First, I wanted to just share that there's a new Katie in town. So we really appreciate Katie Dyke continuing to help us clerk this commission. But in late May, we welcomed a newest member to our team, Caitlin Fox. She goes by Katie. She's here. There she is. Hi, Katie. And we're really excited to have her on board. She's kind of being shown the ropes by Katie Dyke. And she's really I think just going to be such a great asset to our department, and we're really excited. She's a Parks and Recreation legacy. If the name, the Fox, kind of rings a bell for any of you, the California Parks and Recreation Society offers a scholarship every year in her father's name, the Jerry Fox Maintenance Management School Scholarship. We're happy that she's found a home here in Parks and Rec with us. She's been on the job, just a very short time, and in that time, we've had power outages and polling taking place at City Hall and everyone being told to go home. And, every day there's something new, but we really appreciate her and look forward to having her, grow in our organization. So I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Katie, but just want to make sure we had an opportunity to welcome you to the commission. Also, I just wanted to briefly mention that the West Acre Park project is going to be moving forward. We just wrapped up interviews with design teams to contract with a formal design team for the continued planning of West Acre Park. And even though we already had a concept plan developed as part of the community engagement outreach effort, we now need to take a more detailed look at the designs, and we have a recommended design team that's going to be considered by City Council via contract at that July meeting. So same time the final budget is going, we'll also have hopefully a contract with the design team. The design team's the Milton Design Group, and they are incredibly creative and innovative. And we're really excited that they have also part of their team an expert in the skate park pump track component for the park, and some really sustainable ideas to build into the park design. So that's going to be coming to council in July before you have your next commission meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And then that concludes my presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Paul Reyes, and then I think he's going to turn it over to Aaron Rivas, who's going to turn it over to Anna Padilla.
Okay, perfect. Thank you and good evening. Woohoo! It's summer and we are ready to go. The rec center team has been gearing up for this past couple months for summer, and we are just really excited. So I'm going to give you a quick little update. Last year, one of the big problems was staffing, and which limited us, which led us to limited programs, limited hours of operation. And we set some goals this year. The rec center team set some goals about how are we going to get more staff, and then also let's open up the facility to normal hours, back to normalcy. And so the rec center team, in conjunction with the River City High School, they were able to go out to lunchtime periods for 3 opportunities during March and April, and really go out and recruit, hire, and talk to the kids about come and work for the rec center. Let's get over here and let's build community, and let's do these things and serve our community. And with that, we met those goals. We were able to hire enough staff, and we were able to open up the facility to normal hours, which is Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. to 9:30, and Saturday and Sunday, 8 to 8. So we were able to do that. Some of the youth programs, we're excited. Summer youth sports has started, 100 kids, ages 5 to 12 for 8 weeks. We've got basketball camp currently going on, 100 kids, ages 5 to 12. We have tennis camps on Saturdays. We have 2 skate camps coming up, one in July and one in August for ages 6 to 12. And then Vice Chair talked about Junior Giants, and the first, I can't remember what it's called, the first, the opening ceremonies are this Saturday, the 11th. So we're excited about that. We have about 250 kids. Swim lessons just started, and rec swim opened up on June 4th, Saturday, June 4th, although a little gloomy. We still had people out there. But one of the great things about swim lessons this year and during registration for 2 sessions, we have 700 kids. So we are anticipating that we'll be providing swim lessons for over 1,400 kids this summer. This is awesome compared to, and to be honest, We had 700 kids last year for the entire year. And that was some of the limitations we had because of staff. Recreational swim Monday through Thursday, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, Friday 1 to 6, Saturday and Sunday noon to 5. Couple new programs, parent night out, kids night out will be at the rec center. The first one will be June 24th, and then we'll have one in July, August, and September. We also are bringing a program out to Bright Park called Rec on the Move down there. So we'll be bringing a van out there, hula hoops, soccer balls, basketballs, whatever we want to bring out, games. But our goal is to bring recreation out to Bright Park. So we'll be doing that on Tuesdays and Thursdays starting the 14th next week. Few programs I do want to mention. We are collaborating with Washington Unified School District and working in coordination with Jay Burns. We'll be doing the tennis and golf program, June 27th, July 1st, 2 sessions, and then July 25th and 29th. And then also be doing the Sac Republic soccer camp, which will be held at Bright Park, July 18th through 22nd. And then our typical adult sports that are currently going on this summer, spring and fall, adult softball, adult basketball, adult volleyball, tennis, flag football, pickleball every Tuesdays and Thursdays at the rec center, and eventually move out to the tennis courts. And then obviously during at the rec center, we have a lot of personal training classes and then 19 cardio classes throughout the week. Lastly, we have the VIA program, which serves from, if you live in the North and the Brighton Project District, you can get free transportation to and from the recreation center. So it's been promoted throughout that area through our social media. And then when we do programs out in Bright Park, and it'll be mentioned at the first tee for Junior Giants this weekend about this program. So this is a great program for free rides for 13 and above, and they can come down and take a free trip over to the rec center. And then finally, the recreation center team has been working really hard. I mean, it's been a tough couple of years, but they're dedicated to serving the community residents with quality programs in a safe and fun environment. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Erin Rivas, the Parks and Recreation Business Manager. I'm here to provide a brief update on special events, but I also wanted to introduce you to Ana Padilla. She is the queen of all that is special events. And I don't know that you guys have ever met her or seen her in person, but here she is. So I just want to let you know, the city municipal code relating to special events was last updated in 2015. And the language in the book of fees associated with special events was last amended in 2017 to align with the municipal code. The fees weren't actually changed. It was just sort of the language. I think it was the categories and how they align from the schedule of fees and the municipal code. And since 2016, the number of special events, permit applications in the city has increased. The complexity of events has increased, not to mention that the amount of staffing required to review these more complex, larger volume of special event permit applications. But our fees haven't changed. The cost to review the applications has gone up, but the fees have stayed the same. So both the municipal code and the book of fees are in need of updates. The staff has been working since 2020 with Wildan Consulting as part of a citywide fee update process, and we've established the consultant has basically established that the cost of administering these special event permits far outweighs any revenue that's been generated with the special event fees that we've had in place. So city and so now the special event permit applications are once again on the rise. City staff has proposed to increase some of the special event permit fees to better align with neighboring jurisdictions. The proposed updates to the municipal code and the book of fees relating to special events are being presented to the City Council on the 15th of June. Staff is working towards updating some other park fees as well for department programs, park and facility rentals, and the tree program. The proposed modifications will be shared with the commission at a later date. Tracy, did I get it all?
Got it. Thank you. we actually started this a few years ago. Anna and Aaron had been working on it. And with COVID, we stopped administering special events and permits. So we've sort of had this in the queue for a while, and we just weren't able to pull together an entire report for this commission meeting, but wanted to make sure that you knew that we are going to be taking a request to council to consider minor updates to the municipal code. They're more administrative in nature, but more importantly, the book of fees. It just allows us to better align our costs with basically what Sacramento and Davis and Woodland are doing. So if you have any specific questions, I'm sure Anna and Aaron could answer them, but we wanted to make sure you knew about that.
Totally.
I did actually have a comment to go backwards, if I may, a little bit. I'm sorry Katie left, because I believe I worked with her father, Jerry.
She's still here, I
Oh,
think.
is she? I don't know. I don't see her. There she is. I did work with Jerry for a few years. He was a good guy. I mean, you've heard that 1,000 times, but it was a pleasure working with him. I worked with him. He had left Elk Grove and he was working with me when I was out in Rio Linda. And he put in some restroom facilities as only he knew how to do. And he was just a really good guy. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. And I knew he had a daughter somewhere. Now it's really true. I could see the daughter. That's good. Yeah. So welcome to this place. Welcome.
Well, there aren't any more questions for me. I guess I'll pass this off to Anna.
I see Commissioner Reed has a hand raised. Go ahead. You're muted.
I'll wait until after Anna.
Okay.
I think Katie wanted to comment real quick.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm having mic problems. Thank you, Dawn. It's always really great to hear things about my dad and from people who worked with him. I'm really excited to be here and working with Parks and Recreation on this commission with everyone. So thank you for the welcome.
Welcome. We look forward to working with you, and I'll do my best to keep the agenda and the things moving correctly. So I usually need a little assistance with that. So just it's nothing you're doing. It's going to be on me.
Thanks. I'll do my best to contribute.
Thanks.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. Ana Padilla, Special Events Supervisor. And I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that the Neighborhood Market, West Sac, will be kicking off its first farmers market this Saturday on Ballpark Drive. This farmers market is coming to West Sacramento thanks to Unseen Heroes with the city co-sponsoring. The farmers market will take place every Saturday from this Saturday through December 24th. I don't know if anybody's going to want to go out there Christmas Eve, but hey, that was their end date. From 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. They are going to have music. They're going to have 60 to 65 vendors, which will change around every Saturday, featuring various programming, including artisans, prepackaged goods, tented hot food, and they're going to have 3 to 4 food trucks out there every Saturday as well. So sounds like it's a good time. It's going to be a good time, and we'd love for you guys to go out there and check it out.
We were so excited. We went Saturday.
Did you really?
True story. We went out there. We're driving around the ballpark. Where are these people? Maybe they're inside. Where are they?
That's awesome.
Honest to goodness. So, and now we can't go this weekend, but we'll catch up.
Oh, man. Well, they'll be there every Saturday. So just bring an umbrella for some shade. Thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes, this isn't really a request, but I did want to comment on sort of the last several presentations that we've had, and it's sort of the theme that has been running through the evening, I think, and that is that in the era of COVID, which apparently is going to be with us for years to come, the preference for doing things outside and is going to continue, I think, to grow. I think it'd be interesting to find some data on what, the impacts have been in other communities. But for us as a Parks and Recreation Commission, I think it's between special events that can be held outside and access to recreation facilities that are outside and pressures on our parks, plus, the unfortunate but realistic emphasis on mental health that we're all, concerned with, given especially recent events, and the importance of the literature that's, really emphasizing that communing with nature and being outside are all contributory to maintaining not only good fitness, but also good mental health. So I think we can see and expect going forward that it's going to be a very important asset for our community to preserve and grow, but maintain sustainably and provide those opportunities for our population. And so thank you, all of you, for making presentations along that line and the work that you're doing to make it possible for West Sacramento to offer that opportunity. Thank you.
I think that perfectly segues into the next agenda item, which is future requests within the scope of this commission. So commissioners, this is the opportunity to request that staff bring items, information, anything like that to these meetings within the scope of this commission. I see Commissioner Altamirano. You have the floor, sir.
Hi, I was just going to piggyback off of Commissioner Ahmad about the relationship of the district with Parks and Recs. And I was interested on how that works towards summertime, where facilities are usually not used by the high school and they're shut down. And if they're open to using those facilities when they're not being used for the high school use. I know it can be hurdles along the way. I've worked for 2 school districts, and both approaches were very different. One was very open to it. The other was on a rental basis. If you were, both were comfortable if you were affiliated with the school as a coach, which I was. So I just wanted to get some more intricacies of that relationship between Recs and the school district. Also, I forgot to plug our youth program. We have a wrestling youth program that Donald Sevenson just finished up. Luckily, we were able to use River City's facility to do it. We were doing it twice a week. We did 4 months. We had about 40 kids ranging from 6-year-old to high school. So it was a great program. That's it.
That's fantastic. And that's a great example of things that we can discuss in these meetings, is to understand better, the relationship between parks programming, city programming, and the school districts and their facility use. Any other requests? I have one. I know we've talked about it in the past. Tracy, you and I, but I think the timing might be nice to just have maybe just a brief discussion, just to educate the commission so that we can educate others on the Bridgeway Lakes water levels. That comes up every year, and I understand it in a little more detail, but I think it might be nice if the commission kind of understood how that whole thing works. So that, again, we, as part of our role as commissioners, can educate the public through various forums or discussions, give them some facts about the water levels and how that whole thing works. So I just thought maybe, although our next meeting, I'm just realizing will be, well, it'll be right in
It'll
August.
be perfect timing.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
if I can have David Culbertson, who manages all the maintenance activities for our CFDs, have him come share some information. We're working very hard right now to pursue both near and long-term options that help us to manage lake levels a little bit better. So without saying too much now and waiting until August, I'll just let you know that the more recent executive order related to drought conditions doesn't help us in terms of pumping water or building a new well, permitting new wells. So the efforts that are underway may take some time, but we can certainly provide a great overview of all of that work. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just, again, it's more of an educational and not an opportunity to pick at it, but just so that we understand it better and we can communicate to folks who are out there with their boats. And I see some people doing the I don't know what you call those, but the yacht, like the little mini yacht races. I don't know if you guys have seen that, the sailboats. It's pretty cool. If you're out there on a weekend, the group goes out there and they put buoys out and they kind of race these sailboats, these small RC, or I don't know what they do, but they're pretty incredible. So if you ever get a chance to see them, it's pretty neat. So any other requests or anything? I think I didn't see any before. All right. So that concludes the agenda. I want to thank Paul for everything that you've been doing at the rec center and all the updates that you made. You guys are doing a fantastic job. It's great to hear that you're able to continue to support those folks who want to use it. And I love the idea of recruiting young people from River City over there. I think that's fantastic. So great job there. And Aaron, as always, thank you for your continued updates and hard work. And Anna as well. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to hearing more about the new fee system and some of the updates. So thank you everyone for your patience tonight. Thank you, Jason. And at 8:16 or 2016, we can adjourn. Do I have a motion? Is that how we do it? That's how we do it, right?
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All right. Do we call roll? This is Katie Fox. This is where I need the help. Do we call roll to adjourn the meeting? I always forget.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Commissioner Ahmad,
Aye.
Commissioner Altamirano,
Aye.
Commissioner Castro,
Aye.
Commissioner Horowitz,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Schatzel,
Aye.
Chair Jan.
Hi. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you in a couple months.